Welcome back, everyone. In today's episode, I'll be showing you how to create a detailed column that can be used for pillars, arches, or support beams on your claim. Stay tuned. Hello everybody and welcome back. Today's episode is all about how to construct this fancy column. You could also copy and paste this guy to make some cool looking arches, or you could also use it as some form of support structure on your claim. So let's just dive right in and take a look at the first step. Okay, for the first step, all I did was make a 1 voxel in width wall, about roughly this size. I went in with my add tool and just threw in some cobblestone here. And I came in with my delete tool, changed the shape to a circle, scaled it up to be the maximum size. Then I went into tweak mode, and I wanted to make sure that was in the exact center of this wall. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark. And what I also did, in case it's not high enough, I want to have enough buffer here to make sure that the top of the circle is wide enough for having a nice wide support structure like this. So I'm just going to add an extra little bit of layer here at the top. Now that you've got your circle cut out, the next thing you want to do is come in with your selection tool. And what you want to do, copy and paste a quarter of this circle. And that's going to act as our template. So I'm going to make this, if you look down here at these numbers here, the bottom and the side here, I'm going to drag this out and make it 16 voxels wide. I'm going to drag this up to be 16 voxels high. I want to make sure I've got at least a little bit more than half of the circle on both sides. And we can always delete that later. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to bring it over here. And basically what I did from here, looks like this is nice and wide enough, and we went a little bit further than halfway, so I'm going to come in and just trim this a little bit. So it looks like 15 by 15 is probably your best bet. There we go, that looks like a nice quarter size circle. Okay, and for the next step, what you want to do is come in with your delete tool. And we're going to try to make this circle on the top edge here by deleting some voxels. And we don't want to go too thin, because I noticed the thinner this is, the less nice of a shape we're going to get. And this is the part where you might want to experiment a little bit here. You can make it as thin or as wide as you'd like. I tend to go with wider the better. If we take a look at this one here, this is 3 voxels wide here. And should be the same over here in this corner. But this is roughly the shape you want to end up with, something that's going to leave you with a decent arch on the very top. Okay, so for the next step, we want to come in and we're going to copy this guy. And we're going to paste it. What we're going for is this shape right here. So I'm going to rotate this guy on its side. And then I'm going to extrude it out about 5 or 6 times. There we go. This time I did about 8. Now we're going to smooth this down. This is similar to the inlaid pattern idea. And you come in with our smooth tool. I think I clicked about 9 or 10 times to get the shape I wanted, that I was happy with. And there we go. That looks pretty close. Now we're going to come in here and take a slice out of this guy. And we want the middle section, because that's going to be the smoothest. Somewhere between 7 and 9 copies is what you want to do. I went ahead and did this a little bit. I wasn't happy with the original smooth, so I extruded it out 9 times this time, and then smoothed it down 10 times. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste this guy. And this looks a lot cleaner to me. But as you can see here, that we do get a nice arc still from our perfect circle. It's not perfect exactly since we smoothed it, but we have a pretty nice clean arch on the top. And unfortunately, I think the old smooth tool usually got a better or more clean result. So I'm hoping they can sort of switch that back or give us a separate smooth tool that behaved much like the old one. But for now, we'll make do. So the next thing you want to do is come in and select the smoothest slice you've got. I'm going to copy this. And for this particular pillar, I extruded it out about 8 times. Okay, now that we've extruded it about 8 times, we have some nice thickness here. This roughly matches what I made earlier. What I want to do is just straighten out the very ends here, so this comes down to a fairly flush straight edge. I'm just going to go ahead and use my selection tool. And we'll just extrude it out to make sure it's roughly the same width. And we'll come in with the add tool. There we go. There's a little bit of a divot here, but I'm not too worried about that because this is going to be on the inside of this arch here and of this pillar. We're not really going to see it, so I'm not too worried about it. I basically want to make sure this inside here has a nice clean crisp edge. And come back with my selection tool, do the same thing up top. So there you go, that's pretty much the first step. And once you've got this, it becomes a whole lot easier. Alright, now that we've got our 1/4 arch here, I want to go ahead and select this guy. And we want to make sure our selection is actually pretty snug here. We don't want to go too far out because we're going to be copying and pasting and putting these guys right next to each other. So we want to make sure our selection is pretty tight. I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste this guy. Let's bring it over here to make sure we've got enough room. There we go. And I'm going to paste it again, and this time I'm just going to shift tab to rotate. And I'm going to go into tweak mode because it's a little bit easier to handle here. And basically what I want to do is to get these nice corners. I'm just going to go 1 voxel out and 1 voxel in. Just make sure they're flush height-wise. And then we'll just look here at the corner, and we'll pull it out 1, and we'll check out this corner, and pull it back 1. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to hit the check mark. And there we go, we get a pretty flush edge right here. It's a little dirty here. We can clean that up later. I'll show you guys how to do that. It's not too hard. And then I'm going to go ahead and rotate it again. And we're going to go back to tweak mode. It's a lot easier to do this, I find, with the tweak mode. And there you go. You've now got the start of the base of the column. And from here, it just becomes a whole lot more fun. And of course, you can get a lot more creative with this as well. You could also do this and be tricky and start adding some inlaid textures, or come back in with your paint tool and add some sort of material to make some sort of inlaid design. But the next step, I'll show you guys how I started experimenting with anti-voxels and some micro-voxels to create these shapes here. Okay, so for this next part, all I did was I came in with my selection tool, and I made sure the selection was the same width of these bottom of these pillars here, or the bottom of these arches. I just went all the way down to the ground. I came in with my add tool. And then I came back with my deletion tool, and I'm basically just going to delete these corners here. It was actually a lot faster to use the selection tool. And of course, you don't have to do this, but I found it does leave a pretty nice shape, and it's always nice to break these things up a little bit. When you add angles and little micro details, things become a lot more interesting. Okay, now that that was done, I went over to my anti-voxel library here, and I chose the Mr. Pyramid here. I copied it, and I pasted it. I come over to the side that we can see probably the best with the best lighting here. And I just rotated it a couple times to make sure I could see which end was facing out. And then I'll try to get this to be roughly the same height as the other pillar. Alright, there we go. And you can see, because it's an anti-voxel, It's actually pretty flush right here. And we can make it even more flush in a second, but for now you can see that's pretty clean. I just went ahead and I pasted again, and this time I didn't go into tweak mode because this time this is a little bit easier to do without tweak mode when you just want to quickly extrude something. And I just want to go back to the original. There we go. What I ended up doing is I went out as wide as the column is completely as a whole. Now you can do it this way. Or again, coming in and using the tools that are at our disposal. And using the selection tool. And we'll make sure we just get the edge of these here. And we're just going to copy and paste it. Once that was done, I came in with my default add tool and just filled in the gaps a little bit. And once that was done, I just took this entire section and copied and pasted it below. Now that we've got these sort of edge borders, I came in with my selection tool. I started with this guy first, and I just deleted a section out of there. And once that was done, I came in with the selection tool again, and I just changed up the material. It's sort of this cobblestone look. You get a nice sort of inlay in here. It's just nice to add different textures to really break things up and make certain designs pop more. Now that I've got that set up, what I went ahead and did is grabbed my anti-voxel default string, this really long version of it here. It's basically the default voxel string. I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste it. And then I came over and I just started experimenting. So if we paste this, you can see it starts indenting from that side. And I just went ahead and I pasted all the way across. And I just sort of found something that I thought looked pretty cool. And of course, you don't have to do this exact design, and I encourage you to definitely experiment and try to find something cool. Maybe even cooler than this. Okay, and the last quick step I'll show you guys is how to clean up these edges here. And the trick for that is I use a micro voxel. If you guys remember my previous video on showing you guys how to use micro voxels, it's just basically taking the selection tool, filling it in with a material, and then coming in with the smooth tool and smoothing it down about 2 times. And once you've got that, just select that. You guys can see that's super tiny. You kind of use this as a little bit of, as like a mini welder. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste that. And I'm going to jump up here to the, actually it's, you can't jump up from the top and take a look. And you can start adding it in this way. But I'm more concerned with how it looks from this side. So what I did was, I just copy and pasted this and made sure it was about 1 voxel in and 1 voxel over, so it's right on that seam. And I just pasted. And you can see it almost like it sews it up and you get that nice crisp corner right here. And it's up to you how far you want to take it. That actually looks pretty good, but you can see over here on this one, from this angle it looks really nice and smooth, but if you just go a little bit here to the edge, you can see it does bow inwards a little bit, but honestly I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to leave it as it is. And of course I'm not too worried how it looks here on the inside. You can see this is the welding isn't perfect, but honestly unless someone really goes looking for it, and depending on how I build this, no one may ever see this. And of course you can also fill this in if you really want to. Alright folks, I hope you've enjoyed this quick look at how to make some fancy looking columns and support pillars and arches and things like that. If you have a question, feel free to leave a question in the comment section below. And if you enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. Until next time everybody, take care.